Hi, everybody. This is Quint Lears with newhomesales.com. I've got the privilege of visiting with David Dean at his personal office. David, thanks so much for having us come down here.
You're so welcome, Quint. Great to see you. You're looking good.
You look great, and the office here is amazing. Congratulations on the success of David Dean and Associates.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, David,
Hang out with winners like you. See, that's what makes that possible.
well, we're going to talk about that. So this is going to be an interesting interview because David's got a lot of things. He's got a lot of irons in the fire. You're doing a lot of stuff. So David's been a national top producing sales associate for two different organizations. You've been president of David Dean and Associates. You've coached thousands, tens of thousands of people, 10,000 different closing situations. He's the pros pro. He's the guy that can develop your career, and he's done that, and he's helped a lot of people. By the way, congratulations on your success. How does it feel to have long-term uninterrupted success in your profession?
I don't know about uninterrupted, because anybody that's done well is that you also had a few years from time to time or things that don't always go according to plan. But if you're committed to making your business work, and you're 100% committed, I say to all our associates and people I have a chance to talk with, if you're 99% committed, you're going to fail. Because that means you're 95% committed when everything's going great, but you're 5% short of being totally committed when maybe you hit a wall from time to time, or you have times when it's just not working, you're doing the right things and it's just not coming together. And that's when I think people, if they're not totally committed, they have a chance at that time to take a look at other things, not realizing that there's, any business that's got a lot of opportunity, it's also got a lot of challenges, and that's why it has a lot of opportunity. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So I'm thankful we've had success. We've been doing this. We run a national marketing company in the supplemental health insurance business. David Dean Associates Inc. That's what our primary business is. We market for Cigna supplemental. We have several thousand clients in 17 states, and we work with agents in different states. So we've got a little niche in the big world of insurance. But I was in the book business for many, many years. A company called Southwestern out of Nashville. Started off knocking on doors 80 hours a week on straight commission when I was 18. Stayed with the company 17 years, and served as vice president of sales for that company. So I had a chance to train several thousand salespeople, and spent about 25,000 hours one-on-one with salespersons, helping them kind of get from A to B to C. And I saw why people really, really excel, and I saw also why a lot of people with tremendous talent, tremendous ability don't make it. And it really comes back down to two things, and that's commitment and attitude. If someone, again, is 100% committed, they can work through about anything. If they're not, it's just not going to work, at least long term. And I don't know many people who have had a lot of success, Quint, who haven't been in a business for a longer time. There's a little bit of a myth that people can make a lot of money quickly or a lot of success quickly. I'm usually interviewing. I'm not on the other side of this too often. I've had the opportunity of interviewing some very, very successful people, as you know. And most everyone, Coach Landry, Coach Wooden, Mary Kay Ash, J. Weller Marriott Jr., Debbie Fields, Kimmons Wilson, Holiday Inns, all of them all told me that they were thrilled to make it. On the other hand, a lot of challenges involved, in getting over the hump and finally to the point where they were highly successful. And I think that's true of most businesses, and I think that's okay. I think that's fine, because you want a business that's got a lot of opportunity and gives you the opportunity to have unlimited income. But with that, obviously, there's some challenges you have to work through, and if you're committed, you can do just that.
It's fascinating. I'm real excited about your John Wooden.
How about that book?
We're going to do the book first, but this John Wooden interview, we're going to get to that, so stick around if you're a fan of John Wooden. This is one of the last interviews that you've done. And before that, we want to talk about now's the time to win. So Dave, now is your time to win.
Come on. Now is your time to win. There you go.
It's your time. I hope you're watching. We're going to win here, so we got to hang out with the winners like David. So, you got a forward by Og Mandino. You've got, hundreds of thousands of copies in print, and it's still available on Amazon. Great book, by the way. And I have not read it once, though. I've read it twice. So it's a great book. You cover 7 principles in this book. Accept your situation is number 1. Right. Number 2 is Be willing to fail. Hold on a second. Number 3 is prepare, daily preparation. Number 4 is be the professional. Number 5 is accept the present. Live in the present. Number 6 is do your best. And then the last one is let God help you. So it's been a very positive book and impact. What I like about your book is that you go in the trenches and you talk about some of the big failures. In new home sales, we have people, we experience the yeses, the highs and the lows, the yeses and the nos. There's somebody watching right now that's watching tumbleweeds go by their model home and has had 2 or 3 cancellations. Give me some encouragement for that front line because you've been there. Tell me about some of the big failures that you've had because it's amazing in the book and you can feel the emotion. A great book, by the way.
Oh God! At a young age, Quint, I thought I'd been number 7 in the company, and I was getting ready to I thought I'd be number 1. The next year. This is back in the book company when I was pretty young in school, and made an investment that I thought was going to be a sure thing, and ended up losing about $15,000. Now that's like in $75,000 in today's dollars. And that was at age 21. So at age 21, if you're 75,000 under, that can seem, pretty serious. So that's where acceptance comes in. When I say accept your situation, it doesn't mean you have to be satisfied with your situation. There's a lot of difference, okay? But a lot of times people going through a challenging situation say, it shouldn't be this way, couldn't be this way, why is it this way? And it keeps them focused so much on what's not going right, if that makes sense. If people would just accept this is the deal, doesn't make it good, doesn't make it bad. But if people accept the facts of the situation, then they can focus on those things they have control over. And about the only thing I've seen salespeople have control over is attitude and activity. People are committed to making the business work. Others, if I'm committed, I'm gonna make it in new home sales. Not sure how, not sure how long it's going, but I'm gonna make it. Okay, if you're 100% committed and you've burned your bridges, and this is how you're going to make your money, then you are going to figure out a way. You may have to make more calls. You may have to knock on more doors. You may have to do a lot more marketing and not so much expensive marketing. I mean, you may be talking to groups, out there. But if you're committed to making it, you will figure out a way to go around. We say there's 2 kinds of people in this world. One looks for a way, and the other looks for an excuse. And it doesn't take any guts or gumption to find excuses. Any of us can do that. But I think it takes a quality person to find a way to go over, around, right straight through any obstacle. Let me give you a quick example. Good friend of mine, Doug Hauser, Dallas, Texas. He had had great success in the book business, had saved a couple $1 million, and he plunked it all on a big business, a building in Phoenix, Arizona, bought an office building, okay? The interest rates just went sky high out of nowhere, and he wasn't able to get his business or his office building leased. The debt service killed him. He lost everything he had. Went into Dallas, Texas on a borrowed car, basically, and credit cards. He almost had to, get maxed out. And he wanted to go in the commodities business because he had traded. His dad had been in the commodities for many years, and he thought he could do that. But he was turned down by 33 brokerage firms. Finally, one hired him with the idea that, with the stipulation he could pass the exam. Excuse me, he did. And then, long story short, he put an investment together that required about $250,000. Okay, and so he documented, made 17,000 phone calls to get not 125 clients, to get 125 prospects to get his first 12 clients that came into the market, a pretty sizable amount. And so I said, Doug, would it be safe to say if you had not been 100% committed that this wouldn't have worked? And he said, that's the understatement. He said the discouragement got so great at times, anything short of being 100% committed just would have taken me out of there. And he's now one of the top commodities brokers in the world today. So I think it takes, when you're going through those times, like we talked about Coach Landry, I made reference to, in Dallas, his first year he lost 11, tied 1, lost his second year, lost his third year, lost his fourth year, lost his fifth year. It's not real popular in Dallas, by the way. And I said, Coach, what made you believe it would be any different, your next year? He said, never once doubted it. He said, I never once we got the right players in the system, we'd win. He said, I had a lot of confidence in my ability to be successful. Isn't that interesting? So he never questioned whether he was going to make it work. It maybe took him a little longer. But had he not been 100% committed to making it work, it wouldn't have. And when he retired, he was the second winningest NFL coach, ever.
That's fascinating. And what we're going to do, I'm going to break this interview into 2 different parts, and I want to come back up, we're going to talk about the John Wooden, greatest coach in the 20th century. And you had a personal sit-down interview with him. I want to talk about some of these other interviews, and we'll be back in a minute. Again, QuentinLearsNewHomeSales.com. Here with my friend David Dean. We are here talking about the John Wooden interview. This is one of many interviews that you've done all across the country. One thing about David, he's a connector, and I'm lucky to be friends with you on Facebook. And every time I see you with another celebrity or basketball star, or Robert Kiyosaki or another author. So, but first, I want to focus on this interview because this is a special. This is one of the last in-person interviews. By the way, JohnWoodenInterview.com. You got to pick this up. This is a treasure. It's John Wooden Interview, not just because of the content, but because, you go personal with him.
Talk to you a little bit about that because it was a real privilege to interview. I'd say Coach Wooden, one of my heroes. Okay. And I had a chance to interview. I've done a couple of radio talk shows over the years, and that's how I had the opportunity of interviewing Coach Wooden back in 1980 for the first time. I had a chance to interview Coach Landry the week before, and I was traveling to a speaking engagement. Called ahead, and it worked out that we could do it. And it was a radio interview at the time. And we were very fortunate to have a chance to film this interview with Coach in 2006. And it's about an 80-minute interview over the kitchen table. It's not a high-tech production, but it's pure Wooden. And what a lot of people don't realize about Coach Wooden is that, he was 54 years old probably before he coached his first national championship. And then he coached 10 and 12 years. So you got a lot of realtors out there, age 40, 45, 50, 52, and maybe hadn't quite come together yet. If Coach Wooden had quit at age 55, you would never have heard of Coach John Wooden because he didn't really come into his own until, that period of time. And had a very modest upbringing, was a high school coach, grew up on a small farm in Indiana. Went to Indiana State, or took over the head coaching job at Indiana State. Took them to the number 2 position in the tournament. UCLA came after him. Minnesota came after him as a prospective head coach. And he wanted to go to Minnesota because he'd been a 3-time All-American at Purdue, wanted to stay in the Big Ten if he could. And so Minnesota wanted him bad, but they wanted Coach to keep the former head coach as his assistant coach. He just didn't think that would work out real well. So the AD, athletic director, said, hey, well, I got to go to the board, work it out. We'll give you a call. So he was expecting a call at a certain time. The call did not come in. And so he thought, well, maybe, it just didn't work out. UCLA had been talking to him. They needed an answer. So they called about, half hour, 45 minutes later. And Coach said, yeah, I'll take the job. Okay, now here, get this, Quint. Half hour later, Minnesota called, said, hey, you're in. You got the job. And Coach Wooden said, I'm sorry, I just made a commitment. And I said, I want to make sure I understand this, Coach. You hadn't signed a contract yet, but you'd given your word. He said, yeah, I gave him a word, and I felt like I should keep. It's one of the most impacting conversations I've ever had because in today's society, it's almost like in business, your word maybe doesn't mean as much as it used to. And I think if people know that you're a person of integrity, if they know when they're doing business with you, if you make a commitment, you're going to keep it, you keep your word, that establishes a characteristic and something about you that will serve you well your entire career, okay? Not just your sales talent, not just your sales ability, but if people reference your name and they want to say, hey, tell me about Quint Lears, and what they can say about Quint Lears is you can trust that guy, man. If he makes a commitment to you, he's a good guy to do business with. That's what you want. Sales ability, sales talent, that can be developed over a period of time, but you can't put a price tag on character and integrity. When you hear Bill Walton interviewed and some of the former UCLA players talk about Wooden, okay, you don't hear him talking about what great technique. You don't hear them talk about what great coaching skills. What you hear them talking about is how much better a person they are because of their association with the character of Wooden and what he instilled. Those players, it's really interesting. He never made more than about $35,000 a year. This is really wild. Even coaching his 10th national title, and that's back before some of these salaries were quite a bit bigger. And I said to him, matter of fact, he made so little money his first 2 years at UCLA. He worked on a farm from 6 to noon. and then took over his coaching responsibility. Isn't that well? Never complained. I said, Coach, did it bother you? Some of these guys are making the figures they're making, you know, some of Kentucky and Bill Self, Kansas, and Patino, all these guys, 5 million, 6 million plus. And he thought about it. He said, no, he said, David, he said, I think every university has the right to pay their coach what they think they should. Isn't that great? But he was just a great, beautiful guy, and very humble, and not, totally unaffected by his success. And my privilege to spend some time with him. I think I think if I was a dad, if I was a coach, if I was a leader, I'd get that interview to everybody I thought an awful lot of in leadership, or people I wanted to instill these kind of qualities in, because that was Wooden. And I think he certainly had great, you know, basketball coaching skills, or he wouldn't have done what he did. But the character integrity Wooden, I think, was the most lasting thing I got out of this.
What was really fascinating to me, because I've read a book on John Wooden, and, you know, the pyramid of success and all these different things, but it didn't have the personal impact. So when you're sitting down one-on-one with John Wooden and you go through all the different awards and he talks about it, what it meant, and the letter that he got from it, it's touching, and it's really, I think, a great piece of history. So you need to check that out. Again, it's johnwoodeninterview.com. Order yourself a copy, because it goes over the principles of success, but then you also go deeper into the personality of who John Wooden is.
Pure Wooden for 80 minutes. Beautiful. And it's one of the last interviews, you know, we were fortunate. It's one of the last interviews I think he granted, especially at home. And died at age 99. Had just a great life. And I've had the good fortune of becoming very good friends with his daughter, Nan Wooden. And it's just a great family.
I really felt it was a awesome interview, and congratulations on that. And that's just one of many hundreds of interviews that you've done. You've been a big inspiration to me. I've known you for a while, and, you know, back when you were doing interviews before and reading your book, when you first gave it to me, 9 years ago or something. I want to know how you do that, because, again, whenever I see you're with these different celebrities or authors or and you're traveling over, you're a connector. Give me some techniques, because a lot of us, you know, I'm interested in kind of doing that. There's other people that have podcasts or interviews or blah. So, but you've been there, done. You've got the big names. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we're all in a names business, and a lot of people don't realize this. In our insurance business, we're in the names business. Now, it just so happens we have a fantastic product, okay, or we wouldn't be able to do what we do. But we do an awful lot of work with permission from clients to be able to use their names, because I can say, you don't know me, but you may know so-and-so or so-and-so, and different things like that. That helps open up a door. That's true of interviewing. That's true of sales. You know, people kind of want to know, who have you done business with? Who do you represent? Who have you sold to? How many homes have you sold? And who are some of your clients? You know, who could I talk to about you? But in the early stages, when I hadn't interviewed anybody, you know, we just made a list of people. Small radio talk show back in 1980 on a small station. I don't know if anybody ever even heard it Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. I'm not sure who's listening, but it gave me the opportunity to go out and interview some of these folks. It was strictly kind of a hobby. I just did it in conjunction with the business, because I've always been interested in the story behind the story. You know, Quentin, you see people that are highly successful and doing very well, but many times, you know, you don't know all the things they had to work through and all the things they had to go through. You know, for instance, I was interviewing J. Willard Marriott Jr., all right? And I read his book prior to interview, and I said, Mr. Marriott, I understand that you were in business 40 years before you actually started Marriott. Is that accurate? And he said, yeah, that's correct. He said, we were in the hot shop. We were in the food business, you know, prior to getting in the hotel business. And we were one of the first in the in-flight service with Eddie Rickenbacker at Eastern Airlines, and then we were in catering and different things like that. You know, my dad started hot shops in Washington, D.C. on corners, you know, with a little root beer and hamburgers. But one day a gentleman said, you know, we get ready to put up a big warehouse in Washington, D.C. And a gentleman said, you know, to my dad, he said, it's way too good a location for a warehouse. You got to put up a hotel. Isn't that interesting? And, you know, the rest is history. But it's not like they got into the hotel business immediately and were a great success. Okay, so I think it, you know, but I would call ahead. I would list different persons that we wanted to interview, or if I could get them. Okay, and so I had a chance to start off with Bill Wade, who was a friend of mine, quarterback of the Chicago Bears to a national title, living in Nashville. I said, Bill, I need a few people to interview. Who would you suggest? He said, well, call Coach Landry in Dallas. You know, I'm a young 32-year-old guy. and just tell him I, recommended you, and maybe I'll interview with you. Hey, So I called Coach Landry. I said, would he know you? No, he absolutely would not know me, but he would know Bill Wade. And Bill suggested I give Coach a call. That that might work out. I could do an interview on a small radio talk show. And interesting enough, they granted it. So then I called like Mary Kay Ash, and I was coming to Dallas anyway. And they said, would she know you? No, I said, no, she wouldn't know me, but she would know our company, the book company I was with. And you might tell her, we're going to be interviewing Coach Landry at a certain time in the afternoon. Just want to know if there's a possibility we could interview her a little later. And interesting enough, they actually called the Cowboy headquarters to verify that I said, you're either interviewing him or not. Okay. Those worked out. So then I called it to Los Angeles. Okay. I was flying to L.A. for a speech and talk and try to, reach Coach Wooden. And Coach Wooden, you wouldn't know me, but you would know Coach Landry out of Dallas. He said, yeah, we're Fellowship of Christian Athletes together. Bill Wade out of Chicago. Yeah, I know Bill. And away we go. And so as I got more names, it was easier to get more names. Okay, you see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm coming back to today. Like how when we went to interview Colonel Sanders, matter of fact, we had the privilege of interviewing him just 10 weeks before he died. Would he know you? I said he absolutely would not know me. But he would probably know Coach Landry out of Dallas, maybe Bill Wade out of Chicago, Coach Wooden out of, and those are the kind of things that helped us. So they don't know me, but have the guy. If you're interviewing these guys, you must be okay. So I think a lot of us enter names, but I think if you can use names effectively, and that I think it makes a big difference in helping to get indoors that you may not have had it as easy a time otherwise. Here's what I found out. If you call people, they may talk to you. If you don't call them, they're not going to talk to you. Okay.
So be committed.
Just pick up the phone and make some calls. I remember when I was calling Coach Landry's, I had two fears. One is they go, who, or is it, getting blown out. The second fear was he'd say yes, and I'd actually have to go in and act like I know what I'm doing.
We've been trying to get an interview with you for close to a year now, I think.
Hey, what can I tell you, Quentin?
Finally had to sleep. I had to sleep outside of his door, and they woke me up this morning. I said, I'm not leaving until you do the interview.
That's not true. I've had a hard time getting on his schedule. That's really the real fact.
And then I want to transition, because one thing I've noticed about some of the people at the top is their sense of humility and also giving back. I mean, I see that in the John Wooden interview. I mean, even when he's going over the awards, it's not about, oh, I won this award. It's like, this one was really special because the team got together and, you give a lot back. So I want to talk about some of the charities and things that are important to you, and the importance of keeping a level head and keeping things in perspective in the business.
Well, I'm reminded of, and I'm not even sure who said it, maybe Winston Churchill, that success is never final, and failure isn't fatal. You know what I mean? So I don't think whatever degree of success any of us have.
Principle number 2 in the book, by the way.
But I think whatever degree of success we're able to have, we can be thankful for, because none of us do it on our own. I mean, none of us do it on our own. We've been mentored by different people. We've learned from different people. And I've been so fortunate to be around some of the outstanding sales professionals and sales leaders. And, whatever I know, a lot of it's been picked up by people a whole lot smarter, a lot wiser than I am. And so I think to be thankful for whatever degree of success you have, because no need to be otherwise. And I think if you're going through again some of the more challenging times, I think being thankful for what's going right, not what's going wrong. It sounds too simple. Okay, but it's so easy to dwell, even when you're having a certain degree of success. If you don't watch it, you're comparing yourself to people who've been so much more successful. So if you don't watch it, you're not happy with anything you're doing, no matter what success, because you're comparing yourself with a lot of different people. So I think if people could be thankful for what they do get a chance to accomplish, obviously you want to strive to keep getting better. You want to strive to improve. But I think Coach Wooden said it well, not so much what you accomplish, but the fact that you're striving to become the best possible person you can be with a talent that you have, okay? Because they said, it's been said before, one of the greatest burdens is unused potential. So I think if you want to be a happier person, it's not about money, although we all like to make money. It's knowing that you're coming closer and closer to reaching your God-given talent and your ability, and you're doing the very, very best you can. Not perfectly. None of us do it perfect. But you're striving to do the best you can. With
Principle 6.
With the right attitude, with the right attitude and the right character. And I think that makes a difference. I've been fortunate to be on the board. I'm serving as president of the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club here in Las Cruces. I think it's a fantastic organization. We have the opportunity to be of service to a lot of kids who've got just really exciting kids, and they're enthusiastic. And they get in, they jump on those computers, and we have some great things for them to do. But that's been a real privilege for me to be involved. And I'm involved in different church activity and giving. I've been thankful to do that also.
What I see is that, we've sharpened, or you spent a career and a lifetime sharpening and honing skills and promoting and sales and influence and leadership. And now you're at a position where it says, I'm going to use these skills to help, this organization or that organization. So you've got the Boys and Girls Club and and we want to thank you for all of your contribution with that. Any final tips for the people, front lines people? Anything you want to add?
I do. Keep tuning in to New Home Sales with Quint Lears. Now, and I'll tell you what I've been impressed with, Quint. See, you can learn from Quint, and I mean that sincerely. I started watching what Quint's doing, and I thought he's good at what he does. He likes what he does. He's smart. He's intelligent. Real character also. But you can learn, because Quint's going out. He's just making contacts. He's making calls, and he's persistent. He keeps up until he finally gets the interviews he wants. And I think he's got great content, or he's interviewing people that will give you some tips, and we all can pick up little tips. Here's the interesting thing: you go to a seminar, you may not remember 95% of it, but you'll pick up one or two little things. You go, hey, I can use that, and that's really all you're looking for. So if you keep tuning in to Quint, I'd check out his latest interview always, because you're going to pick up one or two things, some of which is just a reminder of what you already know, and you may not be applying as effectively. Okay, and it's true of all of us a lot of times. Okay, but you can know enough about a book to write about it and still violate every principle. I've been guilty of that sometimes. You write on living the present. If I don't watch it, I'm trying to live in the future way too much. So we all need to review certain things that we know to be true, to see not do we know them, but are we applying them? And I think that's what people can benefit from listening to your interviews. Is number one, am I doing what I already know how to do? And then, hey, that's a thought, that's an idea that I personally can implement. Not every idea is going to be applicable to your business, but you'll have enough ideas. You'll pick up enough good ones, and you're only looking for one or two. You don't need 100 of them, because most people who read books on success and go to seminar, they have the basics, but they're looking for a couple things that can make a difference from people who really excelled and achieved, and I think that's what they benefit listening to your interviews. So keep charging, baby. Come on now.
Oh man, now the sky's the limit, because I'm gonna say, well, you don't know me, but you know David Dean.
There you go.
It's been
I want you to buy that book now. Now's your time to win. Let's go. Now's your time to win. Is it Leader? 7 Principles. It's TremendousLifeBooks.com. It's on Amazon too, but TremendousLifeBooks.com. And the reason I'm referencing that is it's one of the best sites for motivational books in the country. Okay, they've got a better variety and more motivational books at reasonable cost. So TremendousLifeBooks.com. And then the John Wooden interview, Charlie Jones was a real mentor of mine, and his daughter now runs Tremendous Life Books. Charlie wrote a book called Life is Tremendous, sold 2 million copies, an excellent book. And, you mentioned Coach, Og Mandino did the forward to Now's Your Time, also a real mentor. Og did a book. If you haven't read Og's book, Og did a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World, sold 15 million copies, okay? And it's not really a book on sales technique. It's a novel, but it's a fantastic book. It's one of the early books I read in my career, highly motivational. But Charlie Jones used to close every one of his speeches, and he'd say this, Quinn. He said, I want every one of you to buy my book. He said, I want every one of you to buy my book. He said, you buy my book, I'll promise you 2 things. 1, my family will appreciate it. He said, and number 2, you read these principles, you practice these principles. If they work, call me. I'll try them myself. Hey, have a great day. Thanks. It's been a privilege.
Hey, man, thanks so much. David Dean on newhomesales.com. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Okay, man.
Thank you.
Keep charging, baby. Come on.
We're going to do it. Let's get ready.